Hi guys, so today's video is just going to be kind of a quick little book unhaul. The first two books that I'm going to take in are An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night by Saba Tahir. These books follow this society that is somewhat inspired by Rome, and there are these group of people called the scholars who are oppressed, and then there's another character that is currently part of the upper class, and he is being trained to become a mask, which is this very intense soldier. So these two main characters, Laia and Elias, are on opposing sides, but based off of a lot of events, they kind of get thrust into each other's worlds. I'm not getting rid of these books because I thought they were terrible or because I had a problem with them or anything like that. In fact, the writing itself is very, very well done in my opinion, but I don't feel a connection with most of the characters as of right now. In fact, one of the main characters is one of my least favorite characters of all time. The more the series goes on, the stupider she gets. Despite that, I still find the books entertaining. I definitely think that they're fast-paced and they're interesting, but I don't love them right now. They're not my favorite books ever, and I just don't feel the need to keep them. When the series is complete, I will definitely finish reading the rest of the books, and if I end up absolutely loving it, I might consider getting these again, but right now I don't know if that's going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen for a little while, at least a year or two, and in the meantime, I'd like getting some store credit. The next book I'm taking in is Strange Practice by Vivian Shaw. This book follows a woman who runs a practice in modern day Europe, specifically in London, and she takes care of the undead. In this first book, the two things that we are dealing with the most are vampires and demons, and the book was fun, and it was a buddy read that I did, so I do these monthly buddy reads on my channel, and a lot of other people read this as well. And people that like this genre did really enjoy it, but people that aren't really a fan of this genre just kind of felt in between about it, and I think that that was true for me as well. The next books that I'm getting rid of would be not only the first Black Prison book by Brent Weeks, but I happen to also own books 2 and 3. I am a lot better about that now, about not buying sequels when I haven't read the first one, but with this one, I had bought the first one, and I think the second one was a gift, and the third one I found for, I think, $6 at Barnes & Noble once. It was just randomly on sale, and so I thought I was gonna love this series. A lot of people praise it. I've heard that the magic system is fantastic, and the guy at the store told me that it was his next best thing compared to Stormlight Archive. I'm a huge fan of Stormlight Archive, so if you say that something is right up there with it, I'm gonna be inclined to want to read more of the books and get more of the books so that if I love it, I can pick up the next one. That unfortunately wasn't the case for me. First off, I didn't like any of the characters, and even if the book is really well written, it doesn't matter at all to me if the characters are all unlikable. I don't mind if they're unlikable intentionally, the point being that you are finding these flawed individuals, they're not all squeaky clean stuff. I'm all for that. I think that's great in stories, but I just literally couldn't stand the characters, some of them, especially Kip. I hated Kip. If you're not familiar with the series, it follows an individual who is known as the Prism, and he has more magical abilities than anyone else. The magic system is based off of colors, and he has the ability to manipulate any of the colors, whereas most people have maybe 1 to 3, if any at all. So we follow him, his son, and then a few other characters that are involved in his life. I just did not care for those characters. I didn't find Gavin to be that great. At times he was somewhat interesting, but ultimately I didn't care for Gavin. I found most of the other characters blech. And then Kip, I hated Kip so much. And Kip is the character that a lot of people really can't stand the perspective of because he's constantly thinking about women's bodies and their chests, and regardless of whether that's something people notice or not, you still don't have to like the perspective. There is also the fact that in this book there is a woman who is raped and humiliated, and the next day she just decides that the guy seems like he's being kind of nice to her, and then she's hung up on this guy pretty much the rest of her life. And when I say hung up on, I mean she's basically in love with. She's in love with this person, and there's more to it than that. I don't want to give away spoilers, but I really have a hard time with plot lines about women getting raped and then not being really upset about it and just kind of accepting it and getting over it. I don't know why it's a thing. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's a thing. I don't know why people get this impression. It's like, well, that's what happens, you know, because women, it messes with their mind and they feel the need to blame themselves. And there's like all these reasons, and part of me is like, who do you know? Who do you know that's been raped and humiliated, like is crying, and the person forces themselves on them anyway, and everybody knows it. Who do you know who has gone through something like that and was like, well, I mean, they were nice the next day, so it's fine. I want to clarify for a second too. I said woman. I said I can't stand when plot lines having women get raped and then the rest of what I said, but it's not just women, it's people. It's people. It's just I see it with women more often, but I've never seen a plot line, and not that I want one. I've never seen a plot line though where a man gets raped by another man and he's devastated and crying and humiliated, but then is like, but I like, the guy's great though. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. I've never seen that happen. Maybe you've seen it happen, but regardless, I don't want to read it. I don't like that in books. Also, along the lines of the whole magic system thing being fantastic, I will admit I have never seen a magic system where the author thought about how it would affect the world more than I have in this book. However, I do think that that can be a negative sometimes, because it wasn't until over 400 pages into this book that one of the main characters is getting basically a tutorial on how to use the magic. It's explaining the very basics of the magic and how to use the magic to this character, and I just feel like that's a little too late. It feels like you should have established the basics earlier on. That way, you know, that way you have a better grasp for it. I just find that I don't care at all if the magic system is always evolving or we're always learning more, or if you don't know about it for a lot of the book, but then it comes into the picture. But the magic system is prevalent from the beginning. It's just you really don't get to know. There's so much to know about it, and it kind of seems all over the place. I just find that if you're going to have an intense magic system, or at least have a magic system that there's a lot to it, you can find clever ways to figure out how to get that across to readers, and I didn't really find that that was the case with this book. The magic system is amazing. It really is amazing. It's so well thought out, but I didn't feel it was well executed. I'm also getting rid of the Night Angel bind-up that I have. I got this a really long time ago, and I read the first Night Angel book so long ago that I don't remember it very well. I just remember being under the impression that maybe I had been too young at the time when I read it, because I just didn't connect with it well enough, and I thought maybe I needed to be older to read it. So when I picked it up again, I had a coupon and I got this bind-up because I figured that would be the cheaper way to purchase it. But after reading the first Black Prism book, I just wasn't a fan of multiple elements that I just went into, but also I don't think I enjoy Brent Weeks' writing style enough to read something else by him that he wrote before, because the idea is usually that you're going to improve as an author, and Black Prism came after Night Angel, and because I read it in the past and wasn't a fan of it, I have a feeling I'm not going to be a fan of it again. I don't think I'm going to want to pick it up anytime soon, and just like with An Ember in the Ashes, maybe I'll change my mind and I'll pick it up again and then consider purchasing it, but it might just be a library read for me. That is it though for the books that I am taking in. Thanks so much for watching though. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.